Okay, now.
Okay. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our question and answer call about keto. I'm Bridget McSherry, and I'm going to do my very best to host this. I've never done anything like this before. um, so, just to start off, I'll tell you my story. I have been doing keto with Alicia for it's going to be a year next week, which is insane. I have lost 75 pounds doing this, and it's been emotional and it's been hard at times, but now it's just my lifestyle and it comes pretty easily. Not that it's never hard, but it comes a little bit easier. Starting off a year ago, so let me tell you just some of my backstory. So 2 years prior to starting, I made a New Year's resolution. I'm not going to eat any candy. I'm not going to eat any sodas, and I'm just going to be more mindful of what I'm putting in my body, and I'm going to work out. Okay, it's like a lot of people's New Year's resolution. I made it all the way through the year. I did everything that I said I was going to do, and I lost 35 pounds. Super stoked. Yay, I did great. So then New Year's comes around again, and I'm like, I'm going to eat candy and a Coke because I've missed it and I deserve it. I gained all of my weight back and then some, and I was unhappy. I didn't realize how much weight I had gained or how big I had gotten, and wasn't paying much attention to it anymore, really. And then my pants started getting tighter, and these weren't just my like regular pants. These were like my big girl pants. These are like the ones that I held on to that I was like, I'm never going to wear these again. And they were starting to get tight. I was like, there's a problem. When I started BNI with my full-time job, my full-time job sent me to a BNI networking group, and Alicia happened to be in it. And she said, I'm going to start this keto group for couples. And I was like, oh man, this is what I need to do, because my husband we both needed to lose weight and work on it together. So we've gotten her group together, and we just went full in. We didn't miss any of our accountability calls. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. This is my son saying. Anyway, we didn't miss any of our calls. And we didn't cheat. We didn't have cheat days. We didn't have cheat meals. We just did everything the way that we needed to do it and did our best to stay on track and, set goals for ourselves. So for me, I think it was 50 pounds, 40 or 50 pounds. When I lost that much, I was going to have pizza because pizza was my thing, right? Like I told Alicia up front, I'm just going to miss pizza. Like who doesn't love pizza? And so when I got to my goal, I had pizza. Now, granted, I took into account it was gluten-free, it was light sauce, things like that. But I had pizza, and I did fine. And I got back on keto and kept going. Like I said, ended up losing 75 pounds. Now I'm just maintaining, which is amazing. So that's my keto story. And I guess from here, I'll introduce you to Alicia. And then I have notes somewhere. Dang. We're good. Okay, so here's a little background on Alicia. It says, due to her 27 years in health and wellness industry, Alicia is a respected and accomplished speaker and mentor. She began her career as a fitness instructor and later became a personal trainer and nutrition coach. Her personal experience with cancer, as well as her struggles with food addiction, has made her extremely effective at helping others. Her clients have found freedom from compulsive eating, health, happiness, and success through nutritional excellence. She studied at Baylor College of Sports Medicine, where she obtained her PFIT, Alicia? Yep. And she's with Bliss Nutrition. So here is Alicia.
Hi, everybody. Well, that kind of sums me up, except for this part of my story. I became a plant-based eater in my early 20s, and I started juicing. And I was doing that because of where my health was, and what we knew 30 years ago was that, that was the best that you could do at that time for your body. And, more fruits and vegetables mattered. And so I just went all fruits and vegetables pretty much, and pasta, and bread and things that are typical kind of vegetarian / vegan. In fact, there was no such thing as vegan back then. This is how long ago this was. It was just you're vegetarian, right? You don't eat anything that has to do with animals. And that's where I was. And I did that until 2.5 years ago. I ate a plant-based diet. And here's what changed for me. What happened was I went to my holistic practitioner, and just for a checkup, me and all my daughters, and I raised my children on this diet as well. And it's what I didn't teach people to eat a vegetarian or vegan diet. I made their meal plans appropriate to them, but always about lots of fruits and vegetables. And a few years ago, I went gluten-free, because we know more. As we keep learning more, we know more. So I kept updating my nutrition. So when I went to the doctor and found out that I was protein deficient and that my A1C was elevated, I was really surprised. I don't know if you guys know what your A1C means, but it's a marker for the possibility of having diabetes. And I'm the healthiest person I knew. So having an elevated A1C surprised me. I was just like 1/10 of a point away from being considered diabetic. And so were all my daughters. So I had been playing around with an autoimmune protocol because of my autoimmune disease. And I decided to do an autoimmune paleo protocol. And what I noticed, Bridget, was I did start feeling better. I felt a lot better, probably because I was eating animal protein for the first time in my life, and I felt full, right? And it sustained me, and good healthy fats. I did feel better, but I still couldn't lose any weight. So I spent about the next 6 months thoroughly researching the properties of a well-formulated ketogenic diet, and it does matter if it's well-formulated or not. And then I first did it with myself, and then my friends and family were my guinea pigs, and then I started classes where I do 6-week classes. And here I am, 2 years later now, and I've probably taught, I think, 10 groups now. And it's just been great to watch people's success and what it's done for them, how their health has improved, how they've lost weight like you. And it's just amazing stories. I love doing it. That's my story.
And what a great story it is. Okay, so I came up with a few questions, and I figured we could start with those. And then if you guys think of any questions, I think at the end we'll just kind of open the floor and let you guys ask if we didn't already touch on it. Down there at the bottom. I'm sorry. Real life happening here. See that? Right there. Yep. Okay. So question 1, I said, how do you start, and are there recommended foods or foods that you would recommend?
Okay. So let's talk about what a well-formulated ketogenic diet is, what one is not. What a ketogenic diet is not is a high-carb diet, but it's also not a high-protein diet. It is a low-carb, moderate protein, high-fat diet. That's what it is. And I know that scares a lot of people. We're going to cover a lot of those questions. And so, as far as recommended foods, just like in every nutrition plan that I ever did, I recommend the best foods possible, which are, when you're eating fruits and vegetables, organic is always best. You for sure want to stay away from the dirty dozen. And when we're talking about animal proteins, I'm talking about the best source animal proteins as well. So grass-fed beef, pastured chickens, pastured pork, and then even wild-caught fish. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Okay. And then so next I had, which kind of, I guess, goes with the first question, is it expensive or could it be expensive?
It could be, but it could be especially expensive if you don't change other habits or your family doesn't change other habits. You can do not as well of a formulated ketogenic diet. And I know we're going to go into some more detail about what that really means, because you could eat like margarine and hot dogs, right? And you would be on a ketogenic diet. You could drive through a fast food place every day, get a burger with cheese and bacon and mayonnaise and throw away the bun, and it would be quote unquote ketogenic, right? So you could do it really cheaply, but it's not optimally formulated. And from where I come from, I'm always going to be talking about what it looks like to be healthy and how to create optimal health. So a well-formulated ketogenic diet could increase your food bill a little bit, I suppose, being that you would be buying better sources of foods. So if you're not already eating, organic and grass-fed, then your price is going to go up a little bit. but you're probably going to be eating less protein, right? And you're going to be eliminating a lot of other foods that you're not going to be eating anymore. So I think it probably balances out pretty close. What was your experience with that?
Yeah, I think I would agree. Now, I am on the spectrum of having 2 little kids that don't eat keto. So I still have junk in my house. And I can totally admit to driving through the drive-thru and eating a burger without a bun. So
well, it can be done. And that's
right.
what, I kind of laugh with, because I tell people, like, you literally can do this diet anywhere. And it's like kind of like a truck driver's diet, a guy's diet. For a lot of men, it works really well because it's the kind of things a lot of times that they like to eat. But it doesn't mean it's the healthiest way to do it. And of course, I'm always all about gut health and healing and reducing oxidative stress and reducing inflammation, because that's how we create optimal health.
Right. Okay. So, yes, I will. Hold on one second. Okay. So the next question is it sustainable? Can it be done for the rest of your life?
Well, I'm almost going to let you go first on that one, since you've been doing it for almost a year.
I think that it's definitely something that you can do. It's something that you have to stick to and you have to think about. I have my own struggles, especially right now, and I've talked to Alicia about them, but my grandmother died earlier this month, or earlier last month, I guess. And having the food that people bring, they bring pasta and they bring cookies and they bring everything that's easy and accessible. And that's what I was eating.
And you're grieving.
Right. And it's been kind of hard for me. I mean, if I'm being completely transparent with everybody, it's been really hard for me the last few weeks to come back from that, because as much as I love pizza, I figured out that it's not my thing. Cookies are my thing. Sugar is my thing.
Sugar.
And I think it's a lot of people's thing, right? So coming back from that it's been a little bit difficult, but if you put your mind to it and you get back to where you came from, what is your why did you start doing this in the first place, then it's something that I think is sustainable. It's something that you could do for the long.
I didn't mention in my story, Bridget, when I was talking to everybody earlier, about the fact that sugar has always been my thing. I was even a raw vegan for almost a year, guys, and I ate what was considered acceptable raw vegan sugars every day. My favorite thing to do at night was to get a big bowl of almond butter, cut up a banana, and cover it in honey, or agave syrup, or something that was considered raw and considered acceptable. I still ate a ton of sugar, and I never thought I'd be able to lose my sugar habit, and I could not until I did this way of eating. And that's why I think it's sustainable, because you truly do lose your cravings for those bad things. You just don't want them anymore when you do it. And like anything that you start, I think for about 3 days, you have to buckle down and just get through 3 days. You get through 3 days and then you're going to be golden, because what happens with this way of eating is your cravings go away. Your appetite comes into control. So your calories automatically balance out. In the past, anytime I did anything, I tried to restrict calories. I'm sure a lot of you can relate to restricting calories. And then you're running on sheer willpower, and you're starving. And eventually you give in because you're tired or emotional or, something, because you can't run a nutrition program for your life on willpower. So yeah, I do think it's sustainable for that reason. I remember doing it and feeling like, you know what, I feel so good right now that it wouldn't matter if I lost another pound, because I feel so amazing. So to me, that's something you can do forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so the next thing that I had, and actually I got Lindsay sent a message, and she wanted to talk vegetarian keto. So can it work for people with diet restrictions, such as being a vegetarian? There's also people with autoimmune disorders, all sorts of different things. Can it be altered to fit into their lifestyle?
Okay, so the answer is yes. Are we talking vegetarian or are we talking vegan? Because they do make a difference. Vegetarian is a lot easier usually, because a lot of times vegetarians will eat eggs and dairy, right? So that makes doing this no issue at all. Vegan's a little bit more challenging, but it's not impossible at all to do it, being a vegan. And we do want you to eat vegetables, so you can eat vegetables on this plan and get plenty of, satiation, because of the fat that you're going to be adding, the good acceptable fats, the healthy fats that you're going to be adding to your diet. So it does look differently, Lindsay, but it definitely can be done without much of an issue at all. I would say for a vegan, well, I told you about vegetarians pretty much, but for a vegan, we're talking about a lot of like leafy greens, avocados, and good nuts and seeds in moderate amounts, and adding healthy fats to everything that you eat. So pretty much, things like that, plenty of vegetables you can eat, all kinds of low carb vegetables, and you would just balance it out, because what you'd be missing is protein. So with vegans and vegetarians, especially vegans, I usually do what we call net carbs, and I raise their carbs up a little higher and do net carbs. So I don't go as low with a vegan as I do with somebody who is omnivore. And what else did you say? What? Vegan, vegetarian, other diet. Autoimmune. Okay, so I love this way of eating for anything autoimmune, because it addresses, especially if you do a well-formulated ketogenic diet, it addresses the issues that come along with autoimmune, okay? And I have other little tips and tricks that I add. If somebody's really suffering from an autoimmune, I'll use an autoimmune protocol with their keto diet, which means a lot of times we're eliminating some things like onions and tomatoes, all the dairy, right? So, but other than that, on this plan, if you're eating a well-formulated ketogenic diet, you're not eating gluten, because you're not eating carbs, right? So you're not eating gluten. And with the way we teach it, or the way I teach it and the way we do it, is we heal your gut, which is where your autoimmune problems start. You've got to get that gut healed. In fact, everything to do with almost everything that's wrong in your life, from depression to anxiety to even other mental disorders, energy and autoimmune disorders, or all kinds of inflammation and oxidative stress, we've got to get that gut healthy and healed first. That's first order of business. And with this plan, you definitely can do that.
And no dairy hurts my heart. It always will.
I know.
Okay, so the next question was, how is my body going to run without carbs to fuel it?
It's interesting that, we've been taught that we have to have carbohydrates, right? That our body runs on carbs, and our body can run on carbs. It definitely can. It's not its preferred fuel source, however. With a ketogenic diet, once your body, when you get into ketosis, and especially when you go into keto adaptation, which I'll cover in a second, your body will get 75% of its energy resources from that dietary fat or your body fat. Okay. And it prefers it. And in fact, there's some real benefits to eating a ketogenic diet for athletes, for example, because we can only have about 16 to 2,000 calories left stored in our body to utilize as fuel. So for an athlete, that's why they're always having a carb load the night before if they're going to do anything endurance, or they have those little goo things that they're sucking on when they're running, because they're running out of fuel. But when you're keto adapted, you have 40,000 calories worth of ketones available to you to run off of. And ketones are cleaner source of energy. So when your body is creating ATP in the mitochondria, this is where it creates your energy. When you're using glucose and carbohydrates as a fuel source for this, it kind of leaves everything dirty. It's not clean. And so it kind of leaves oxidation or a problem that will create oxidation behind in the cells, okay? When you're using ketones, it doesn't leave behind that dirtiness that has to be cleaned up, which often will oxidize. And oxidation is what creates free radicals, and free radicals are what damage our DNA.
So essentially, we're doing better. Okay, and so this next question cracks me up, because when we started keto, when Sean and I started keto, we were eating bacon, which is keto, it's on plan. And I didn't eat bacon before I started this, by the way. We were eating, everything that's on keto plan. And Sean went to work, and this girl said, who is this lady? Is she trying to kill you? You're going to have a heart attack. Sean, give me her information, because when you have a heart attack, I'm going to call her. So,
did he give you my information?
Are you going to kill me, Alicia?
Yes, I'm going to kill you. I remember you guys telling that story, and I literally did laugh out loud when you told me, but you know what? It's true that this is what people think, right? Okay, so let's address this. There's a couple multiple parts to this. What causes disease in your body is oxidation and inflammation. What creates oxidation and inflammation? High carbohydrate, high sugar diet. So this is where all the damage starts from. And what happens is your body over time starts becoming insulin resistant, which is what mine was doing. Even though I was eating the very best sources and really not a lot of carbohydrates, my body was starting to become insulin resistant. So were the bodies of all my daughters who were raised this way as well. So when you have too much glucose in your bloodstream and your insulin cannot handle it because your body's insulin resistant, what happens is you get something called metabolic syndrome. And this is where the high blood pressure, the high cholesterol, high triglycerides, all of those things come in that we associate with cardiovascular disease, or anything to do with heart attack. So when you eliminate those things, first of all, your body gets the opportunity to become insulin sensitive again, so that it can deal with the sugar in your bloodstream. Our bodies aren't designed to have more than a couple teaspoons of sugar in our bloodstream at any given time. And it's toxic to our system. So it has to be dealt with. Well, if your body's not functioning properly, it can't deal with that. And it becomes oxidized, and then our DNA becomes damaged, right? So when doing this, you eliminate that problem. Your body has an opportunity to become insulin sensitive again, okay? And your body is going to usher out all the bad cholesterol, the oxidized cholesterol, because that cholesterol is another issue, and we'll talk a little bit more in depth about that. But it'll usher out all the cholesterol. Your body can become insulin receptive again, and your triglycerides are definitely going to go down. Plus, now let's talk about cholesterol. When they measure cholesterol, they measure LDL and HDL, right? LDL and HDL, which are LDL is low density lipoprotein and HDL is high density lipoprotein. Well, that's not cholesterol. That's a vehicle that carries cholesterol, okay? So they're not actually really measuring cholesterol in your bloodstream at all. What they're measuring is how many of those vehicles are in there. Well, what LDL does is it takes cholesterol from the liver. Cholesterol is so important to your body that your body produces as much cholesterol as like a pound of butter. That's how much cholesterol your body produces all on its own. Now, if you get dietary nutrition from cholesterol foods, your body doesn't have to make as much. Okay. So anyway, these LDLs, right, they take cholesterol from the liver and take it to the cells. Okay. And it feeds the cells, and it takes all those fat soluble antioxidants and vitamins to the cells. What you want is your LDL to become light and buoyant and fluffy. And that means it's full of antioxidants, right? It's full of antioxidants. It's happy and fluffy, and it gets its job done. And what HDL is it brings back anything that's left over. Well, if you don't have enough HDL, what happens is the cholesterol's hanging around in your bloodstream, and it becomes oxidized. The other thing that happens, and another reason that we have high cholesterol a lot of times, is because we have inflammation. Those LDLs when they're not light and fluffy, they're small and dense, and the HDL is trying to deal with it. It's becoming oxidized, and it can penetrate into the artery wall, and that's where plaque can build up, right? And cholesterol is a response to that as well, because it's trying to kind of put a Band-Aid over those places where that dense LDL is getting into the artery wall. I know it's kind of complicated and it's kind of intense, but basically what you want to do is create beautiful, light, fluffy LDL and increase your HDL to enough so that it can deal with any leftover cholesterol that it needs to take back to the liver. Make sense? And basically what you want is about a 3 to 2 ratio. So you want three times the amount of LDL to 2 times it. So if it's like 150 LDL, you'd want 100 HDL.
So more fluffy, less.
Correct. Good job. There you go.
Got it. More froth on top. Got it.
I guess what I said worked. You understood it. Perfect.
Okay. And then so another thing that I just recently heard. Now, remember, guys, I've been doing this for a year, and people have seen me doing this for a year. And the people that said it are people that I work with. So they see me every day. We went to lunch for the staff outing, and I have a coworker that's doing a different diet, to each their own, right? He said, well, at least I'm doing it the healthy way. And I looked at my plate and I was like, I'm eating steak, which is a cow from nature, from God. I'm eating broccoli and I'm eating asparagus. I'm not really sure how this is not healthy. So the question boils down to is there research backing it that says it's healthy?
There's a ton of research backing it that it says it's healthy. And go back to the conversation we just had about insulin, cholesterol, high blood pressure, triglycerides. All those things are addressed when you eat a well-formulated ketogenic diet. Guess what, everybody? I don't care which diet you eat. You need to be eating whole foods. Okay, that's what you need to eat. And so again, back to what I said before, you can eat hot dogs and margarine or whatever and be technically on a ketogenic diet. Well, on any other diet, you could be eating bars and things that aren't necessarily whole food, right? And they're not your best sources. We want, like you said, from God, fruits, vegetables, berries, good healthy animal proteins, and the proper kind of fats. And then, your triglycerides go down, your LDL fluffy gets higher, HDL gets, your LDL gets fluffy, your HDL raises up, and your insulin goes down. So your metabolic syndrome has the potential to come into balance. It is a anti-inflammatory way of eating when done correctly, which also reduces oxidative stress. And that's what it's all about. You got to heal that gut. You got to reduce the inflammation and that oxidative stress.
And real butter tastes way better than margarine.
I agree. I'm going to tell you, I called myself a vegan because it was the closest thing to what I considered myself doing. But honestly, I liked using anything that was a vegan butter because it's not real food. It's like eating margarine. It's not real food. Just like if somebody's going to eat sugar or something sweet, I want them to eat real sugar, not a chemical made up in a lab, right? Same thing with butter. Like you need to be eating. And in this case, for what the purposes of what we're talking about, grass-fed butter from the best cows.
So most of my next questions have sort of been touched on already. So I'll just ask them and they can probably be done pretty quickly, I imagine. But this one, is it safe with people with ailments such as diabetes, not having a gallbladder, autoimmune disorders, even autism? So broad scale of things.
Yeah. Okay. So let's address, well, obviously we did the diabetes one. That's done. The ketogenic diet's been around for hundreds of years. It was originally used for medicine-resistant seizures, epilepsy in children. Okay. And the interesting thing about it is these children don't have to eat that way forever for it to be beneficial. So their body has an opportunity to take care of whatever's going on, and they don't have to keep eating a ketogenic diet. I don't know how long they have to do it, but they don't have to do it forever. So that's interesting to me. Now, gallbladder, so many people have so many problems with their gallbladder, and I wish they didn't. And kind of kidneys are going to fall into this place too. I don't know if you brought up or you have that on your list, but eating too much protein can have a detrimental effect on your kidneys. Okay, you can have kidney stones, you can cause kidney damage. It has to be a lot of protein, but this is not a high protein way of eating. Okay, now gallbladder, if you don't have a gallbladder, you may have a little issues adjusting it first. And I'll let you address that in a second. And if you do, I would recommend adding some bile salts. But what gallstones are they are cholesterol stones. Okay, when your body can't do it, it's not having too much cholesterol, and you can't deal with it, it's creating stones. And the other part of it is when you're not eating enough dietary fat, you don't have enough bile, you have a bile deficiency, and therefore those things that are building up in your gallbladder don't get flushed out. When you do a liver gallbladder flush, you drink basically straight oil. No, not basically, you drink straight oil. Why? Because it increases the bile, it opens up that gallbladder, and it flushes out anything that's going on in there. So it's a lot of people, it's just kind of like the cholesterol story. It's a misnomer that eating this way would have an issue for your gallbladder or your liver or your kidneys or anything. In fact, just the opposite. What causes those cholesterol stones or those gallstones is too much sugar or too much protein in your system.
So I will speak into that, whatever. So I had gallbladder problems the August before I started keto, and I had my gallbladder removed. For me, nobody ever told me what caused them. A lot of the doctors say they don't know what causes them, but for me, I'm thinking I have high bilirubin naturally. So I'm thinking my high bilirubin doesn't break down. It happened, whatever. I personally don't have issues with my gallbladder on an everyday basis, but I haven't had any issues at all on the keto diet. So I think it can be done, and it just depends on the person, I think.
Well, it definitely can be done. If somebody wants to take on this way of eating, they may have a little trouble with their body adjusting at first because you don't have all your equipment anymore. Things are missing, right? But adding bile salts will help you with that, and I think your body will adjust. Okay.
So the next one we pretty much, I think, covered, but it said if I slip one day, do I have to start all over again to achieve my goals?
Okay, I don't know if we did really talk about this. The answer in general is no, but let's talk about being in ketosis versus being keto adapted. When you drop your carbohydrates down below 20 grams or less, and you eat moderate amounts of protein, it has to be moderate amount of protein because your body can synthesize glucose from protein. It's called glyconeogenesis. It makes glucose from protein. So it has to be moderate protein, so you don't have glucose in your bloodstream. And within 24 to 48 hours after doing that, you'll be in ketosis. How do you know you're in ketosis? Well, usually things start showing up, like people will notice you have a really acetone smell to your breath. Your urine may smell different. But you just have to hold it there for that amount of time. You can get there faster if you exercise, okay? But that's not keto adaptation. And if you're going to do the ketogenic diet, your goal is keto adaptation. The difference is keto adaptation, your body has begun to prefer using ketones over glucose for fuel. When you're keto adapted, if you get off and you get right back on, if you have a reward pizza and you get right back on, your body will prefer ketones, so it'll switch back easily. When you're not keto adapted and you're just in ketosis, you have to go 24 to 40 hours again to be able to get enough for the glucose out of your bloodstream so that you can be back in ketosis. So our goal is keto adaptation. This can take, and how do you know you're keto adapted? Your brain's going to be working amazingly. Your energy is going to be sky high. And it can take anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months or even longer, depending on how much damage your body has had. If your body's been really insulin resistant for quite some time, your body's got some work to do. So it may take longer for somebody like that to get keto adapted.
I forgot what I was going to say. I had a follow-up, but I don't remember what it was. Okay, I'll think of it. Anyway, so the last question that I had written down was, will I get enough fruits and veggies? And what about supplements?
Okay. Well, I'm going to address keto flu first because we missed that, and it goes along with the supplement question. Keto flu is a real thing. However, it is completely optional. Okay. And it can be completely prevented. What happens is when you start depleting your body of glucose, you expel a lot of water because they're kind of attached together. So you're going to pee out a whole lot of water. Well, there goes your minerals too. So your minerals become imbalanced. And this is where a lot of people get in trouble. And because you start feeling bad, literally can feel like you have the flu, or you could just be lack of energy, or your brain just won't be working well. It could be anywhere on that spectrum. So you need to eat good salt and plenty of it. Really, it's about 5,000 milligrams initially, because remember, you're losing salt, right? And you want it to be the pink Himalayan salt. And you want to eat initially, not forever, take supplement-wise about 1,000 milligrams of potassium and 300 milligrams of magnesium every day to avoid keto flu. Now, here's the cool thing. Once you've been keto adapted, you can go back to that 20 grams without having to go to having issues with keto flu again. Okay, because your body's gotten used to it. It's balanced. Your electrolytes have come back into balance. So I also like adding drinking mineralized water and pH water, or adding mineral drops to my water, but it's not enough on its own to get you there. So that's part of the supplement question. The next part is you asked was, am I going to get enough fruits and vegetables? The answer is pretty much no, but you know what? Nobody does, okay? You should be eating vegetables on a ketogenic diet. Now, when you're at 20 grams of carbohydrates, you're eating lots of greens. You should be eating greens, and you should be eating a lot of green vegetables, but you're only in one color profile there, right? And fruits and vegetables have all these different colors, and they have multiple nutrient profiles. And every one of those fruits and vegetables has tens of thousands of nutrients, and every one of those tens of thousands of nutrients has a job to do, an address to go to in your body. Well, see, nobody's eating enough because we're supposed to be eating 9 to 13 servings. Nobody's eating 9 to 13 servings. So in this world today, the way we are, we have to do something about that, which I'll share with you what I teach people to do. But secondly, you're not staying at 20 grams of carbs for the rest of your life. What I do with my clients is we work you back up to what your carbohydrate sensitivity level is, and that's going to be different for everybody, but that's going to bring back in more whole foods fruits and vegetables, right? We also at this point go to net carbs over gross carbs, okay? So you get a lot more options, and you should be eating as many vegetables as you can get that falls into your carb sensitivity and your nutrient profile, okay? That being said, I don't care if you are a keto client of mine or any other kind of client, I do recommend powdered produce in a capsule form for every one of my clients, because we just don't get enough. We just don't get enough. So I love Real Nutrition for that in a concentrated form. And so I recommend Juice Plus for that, for sure.
Amen. Well, that's all the questions that I had.
Okay. Before we take it open to questions, you did your keto diet for a while without Juice Plus, but then you did start adding it to your diet. Did you notice a difference when you did that for what your body was doing?
So I can tell my story if you guys, if everybody has time for it. It doesn't take long. So for me, I did keto for a long time without taking Juice Plus. I started taking Juice Plus about 4 months ago. So, I mean, I'm a year in, started taking Juice Plus about 4 months ago. I had several reasons for doing it. The first reason is being keto. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like you're not getting your fruits and vegetables. Like Alicia said, I eat leafy greens. I eat broccoli and asparagus, and I eat Brussels sprouts and all those things like that. But I wasn't eating any fruits because I wasn't, a banana has like 32 carbs or something crazy. And I didn't have that. I didn't have those macros to give away. And so that made sense for me to take a capsule that has no carbs and be getting all of my daily recommended servings of fruit and vegetables. So my second reason is in August of last year, so not when I had my gallbladder out, but the year later, my legs went numb. So during Harvey, my legs were numb from the waist down. I couldn't figure out why. I talked to a lot of people, including Alicia, and Alicia said, it sounds like an autoimmune disorder. And so I was like, my doctor wants me to go see a neurologist. That's kind of what he's thinking too. And she said, go, you need to go. And so I went, and that's exactly what they thought. I had MRIs done. They told me it looks like MS. And I was like, I am 33 years old and I'm going to have MS. This is crazy. And of course, in the process, started looking into it more and figuring out that most people that do have it find out in this age range. And luckily for me, I don't necessarily, I haven't been labeled with MS. I've been labeled with clinically isolated syndrome, meaning they can't figure out anything else is wrong with me. My legs are just numb. It's very strange. They still treat it like you have MS, sort of. There's a clinical trial. You get put on this what am I trying to think of? Antibiotic medication, and it's supposed to help stop or slow down the process. The progression. Had my second MRI done 2 weeks ago, somewhere around there, maybe a month ago now. And I still don't have anything progressing. And I've been on my Juice Plus. I skipped ahead a little bit, but when I told Alicia, hey, I got this clinically isolated diagnosis, she said, you have to take Juice Plus. You have to. You're not destined to your DNA, which I love. Flood your body with whole foods and great nutrition, which I'm doing with keto, but this is just adding more to it. It just makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those no-brainer type things. So I started taking it, and I had more energy. For me, more energy means getting up earlier without being grumpy and staying up later without falling asleep. And then my numbness in my legs, Juice Plus or not, I'll go with Juice Plus, but my numbness in my legs is just back down to my shins, kind of where it started. So I'm more comfortable.
And we can always up your ante and do autoimmune protocol with you too. Just saying.
Yeah, but that means no dairy, and I love it.
So I before Juice Plus, I used to teach people to juice, right? And juicing is not going to work on this way of eating anyway. So this is a great solution with no carbs. But when I found this was just simpler, more doable, more affordable than juicing. So that was easy for me. But here's what I feel like you get. You get all those benefits from this ketogenic way of eating. Anti-inflammatory, immune system has the potential to come into balance. Your oxidation can be, go away. But then you add the Juice Plus to it and you have all of that as well. We know for sure that it also does those things. So it's like a double whammy. And then if you later on, which we didn't talk about tonight, add intermittent fasting to it, which is very easy to do with this, then you get more of those benefits from that. And you're actually getting like more, your brain is getting more neural pathways, and you're getting like more new human growth hormone in your body and all kinds of great benefits from that as well. So that's where we'll go with that.
Awesome. So I think question-wise, we're done.
Yeah. So do you guys have questions?
I would love to hear from you guys if you have more questions. I know Lindsay might be more interested in more conversation about vegetarian. I'm not sure. But if you guys have questions, we would love to hear from you.
You can either type it in or unmute yourself and ask either way.
I'm going to unmute myself if that's okay, because I'm multitasking with the baby here. But so my question in regards to the keto flu, like, and increasing your minerals because you're losing a lot of minerals, how would that come into play with somebody that struggles with consistent kidney stones? Like I struggle pretty severely with kidney stones. I can't have any mineralized water. I have to drink strictly pure. I can't even drink my tap water. Like, it's pretty bad. I'm on magnesium supplements, but my sodium levels are restricted. And then that's another reason why I chose to go vegetarian, is because things like red meat and high protein make me more likely to pass stones. So. Yeah. What does that look like?
So, I mean, you obviously, what's your sodium level allowed to be?
That's a great question. I have it on a paper in my cabinet. Okay. I tend to just not salt anything. We don't eat out. I make everything, and so I just don't add salt to it.
Well, and the recommendation that I made is high, and it's not supposed to stay that high. However, the first thing I would do is change the kind of salt you're probably eating. Are you eating a Himalayan or a Celtic, something with color, pink salt?
We are. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect.
It is pink salt.
All right, good. So that's what you need, because there's a big difference between that and table salt, sodium chloride. Okay. Sodium chloride will react in your body completely differently. And that's what most eating out has and processed foods have. So, and it's just bad for your body. So, but mineral salt like that is actually adding the beneficial minerals to your body that your body needs. And the great thing about using minerals or anything from a whole food source is that your body can use it or it doesn't have to. Right? It's not like something when you take like an isolated supplement per se. If you take an isolated supplement, sometimes your body doesn't need it. It has to deal with it, and it has to process it through the kidneys and the liver. Right? And so then you're adding more strain on those organs or any of your organs of detoxification. So I'm not going to be able to fully answer your question here. Sorry, Bridget. But I would have to work with you separately. I'd have to know more about the protocol that your doctor has said and let me work in that protocol to figure out what would work for you. Okay. I still think that we would probably, the other thing we could do is just do higher. You're taking magnesium already. How much are you taking?
I'd have to look at the bottle to see. I take 2 capsules a day out of whatever bottle I get at Walmart, and like the meters.
So what we could do instead is make sure you're getting potassium-rich foods, especially in that first week, because that's where you're really in danger. Is it going through that while you're going down on your carbohydrates, making sure that you're getting your sources of magnesium and potassium from whole foods instead.
Okay.
It's a little harder, but it definitely can be done.
I was going to throw this out there too. I didn't take anything. I didn't ever have any symptoms of keto flu that bothered me enough to know that it was keto flu. I took magnesium one day and it made my tummy hurt. So I was like, I'm not doing that anymore.
Can't do that.
And my husband had kind of keto flu for a day, Sean? Like a day, 2 days. Now he did more. He was pretty consistent with his supplements, and he did bone broth and things like that. So
I was also working out.
And he said he was also working out. I didn't work out a day. I still haven't worked out a day in a year. I've been doing this. So I think everybody's kind of different. You may not have any symptoms at all.
And when I first chose to experiment on myself, I started in Oklahoma City in a hotel, and I didn't have any supplements at all because I wasn't even just thinking about that at the time, but I didn't have any issues either. I did have some issues at another time, but they were so minimal. And here's the other thing, Lindsay, what I would do is add bone broth to your diet, because then you'd get a lot of minerals from that. So you would be getting a lot of beneficial minerals, and we're back to doing it from whole foods. So you'd be somebody I definitely want to have probably on a couple of cups of bone broth a day instead of the one that I recommend. And what I did was I barely ever took the minerals, but I had them. And I remember one day kind of feeling not so great. I took some minerals, drank some bone broth, and 30 minutes later I was fine. And I think that's the only day I use them therapeutically. But because I'm working with groups of people, I go the route of preventing you guys from ever feeling bad. So my recommendations are based on that. Kim, what questions did you have, or what did you have to add?
No, I was thinking about the bone broth in the beginning, when we were talking about that, to add some of the minerals, and she may need to do a low sodium, but then could add the Himalayan sea salt to it.
Well, if you get the really good ones, I think they're made with Himalayan salt, or you can make it yourself. But
what about enzymes?
What about enzymes? So I don't start people on enzymes with what I'm doing. That would be something I would work on somebody with on an individual basis. Same thing with gut healing, because bone broth is healing to your gut, but there's other things I would add if I knew for sure that you had an autoimmune disease or something like that, where we would address those gut issues, which is where, for me, those probiotics and prebiotics and other, again, food sources, which is the way I prefer to get those things, even is through food sources, if your body can handle it over the other. So
don't they help with digestion and breaking down? So it might make it a little easier on one's body if they're having other issues.
Yeah. And that's something, when I work with somebody, I have individual consultations with them outside of the group setting. And then I just ask them questions around their health issues, and we find what's going to help them. Heather, I'm curious if you have any questions, because I know you told me your son was doing it and you had some feelings that weren't so great about necessarily the way he was doing it exactly. And did we address your questions around it tonight?
Okay, so amazing.
That is your son.
Yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. Hi. So she's like, oh, hey, they're doing this keto thing, and you should listen in. So I was like, okay. And I was like, if they say anything bad about it, I'm going to be really upset, because she was always trying to poo-poo the whole keto thing. But I don't know if she's told you guys my story, but I used to weigh 330 pounds, and I decided something was wrong, didn't like how I felt, how I looked. So did something about it. I weigh 262 now, still working on it. But I did have a question about the keto flu. I had been doing it for a couple of months. It's been off and on. Christmas time kind of stopped it. My parents were like, stop your diet. You need to eat some, potato salad or something like that. But which is something that'll get everybody, is family members telling you to eat amazing foods. But so don't listen to them. But I recently got a Gold's Gym membership and started running 30 minutes every day. And then a couple weeks ago, I came across what they call keto flu, and I got it for about a week. And it felt, I was bad. Like, I was fatigued. I usually stay up pretty late, so I think that was probably something that could have added to it. But I wasn't sure why it was happening. I freaking out. A couple of my friends said it was normal, but I learned drink lots of water. I think 2 tablespoons of salt a day, something like that.
Lots of water is absolutely essential. And it could be, you're right, it could be just because you started working out and added, but it's also because you said you were bouncing around. Your body has probably not keto adapted yet, so it didn't like going back to trying to burn and utilize ketones very easily. So, and you added the exercise. And I got to tell you, I don't care, again, which meal plan you're using, but one of the elements to optimal health is getting optimal sleep. So, and it will affect your ability to do your ketogenic diet successfully and well. So do get your sleep, manage your stress, just like we do with everything. We've got to manage our stress. We got to get our sleep. We have to drink our water. And when you didn't add the running, you probably were depleting your body so quickly that it didn't have time to adapt, and therefore you got the keto flu, which is still completely optional. Now that you know, though, if you start feeling symptoms of any kind, you just address it right away, and you can nip it in the bud so you don't have to have it.
Gotcha. All right, and I was gonna add on. Y'all were talking about how to know if you're on keto or do the whole the keto strips.
Well, see, I don't always recommend them, because here's the deal: they're not effective. You will see if you have ketones in your urine, but if you're keto adapted, you won't have very many ketones in your urine because your body's using them. So yeah, you can see if you're spilling off ketones, and it's kind of fun in the beginning to, see that, oh yeah, I got ketones in my urine. But the only way to accurately test for ketones is through blood. Or the most accurate way to test for ketones is through your blood. And I'm not going to be able to do that. So that's why I just go down to 20 grams. I know we're in ketosis for sure with everybody. Although you might get to ketosis at 50 grams of carbohydrates, right? Because you're bigger and you're utilizing more energy. But I can't guarantee that. So that's why I do 20 grams with everybody.
I mean, even then, I do like minimal, like not even 20. I try and cut them all out. And that's another thing I like about Juice Plus.
Are you taking Juice Plus? Because if you are, then I don't have to worry about you.
Yeah, not trying to push a product or anything, but it definitely helps.
Yeah, yes, it does.
For sure helps.
What's your name?
Mason.
Mason. It's good to meet you, Mason.
Yeah, it's good to meet you. Thanks for jumping on and listening to us.
I was going to say, though, you touched on something I think is kind of important. Like, the emotional side of this is ridiculous. Like, how emotionally attached I feel like everybody is to food is insane. And when you said, like, hey, you're going to have those family members that try to get you to eat bad foods, it's going to happen. I mean, there's people that are like, what are you doing? Like, you can't eat that way. And you have to tell them, like, mind your business. I'm going to eat my food, Yeah,
and people will try and tell you that it's not good for you, and I'm just...
Yeah, killing you. Mm-hmm. I always recommend to my clients in the beginning, they don't tell anybody what they're doing. And if you don't bring attention to it, they're not going to notice. If you just don't get the bread at the table and you don't make a big deal out of it, they're not going to notice. Okay. And I think that it's really essential for you guys, because you want to have your optimal outcome, right? And your family loves you and they think they're trying to do something good for you. They really do. I mean, they're saying they don't know what they don't know. They don't know how you can do a well-formulated ketogenic diet and how it actually can be extremely beneficial for you if done correctly. But also, when you're talking about what you're doing, when you guys start losing weight and you start exercising, whatever you do to improve yourself, and you're telling somebody about it, they have to look at themselves. You're putting a mirror up to them, and they don't like what they're seeing of themselves a lot of times. It has nothing to do with you.
Something else I was going to say, too, is it's easy for people to go, oh, well, we can't go there. We can't do this because you're doing that. It's not the case. Everywhere you go, you'll find something to eat.
Always.
Everywhere. Like, Taco Bell is probably one of the hardest places in my brain. I'm just thinking out loud. It would be hard to find something, but I haven't done it. But I would imagine they have some kind of fajita something. So you can have fajitas and cheese. Yeah. Now, Lindsay can't. But
no. Lindsay would have more of a challenge.
You can do the taco salad with the show.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, see, he's figured it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, Carl's Jr. and Witch. Yeah.
So good. Exactly. Who else has it? Jimmy John's.
Or McAllister's. I do McAllister's a lot. They have a 2 for $7.90 or $7.49 where it's like you could pick a sandwich, a soup, or a salad, and I get like a chicken chipotle bacon salad with broccoli cheddar soup.
Sounds delicious.
Mason, make sure that you're not eating too much protein. You don't want to eat more than about 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So, and usually that runs around 20% of your total calories. I find that usually falls into that place. But for an accurate measure, 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. Because you may lose weight now, but you may stall out if you're eating too much protein.
I was going to say, and why?
And you won't become keto adapted either, which, going back to what you talked about earlier and getting the keto flu, it could have an effect on that because your body's never getting used to burning ketones.
I wish I had known that because I work at a barbecue place and I'm pretty bad about eating protein. Eat a lot of it.
Yeah, it's moderate protein. And that's the other big pitfall that people do on a ketogenic diet is they eat too much protein and they never get keto adapted.
Gotcha.
I eat a lot of barbecue too, though. It's delicious.
But without the sugary sauce, right?
Without
yeah, cut it out. Pickles and onions.
Okay. All right, guys, this has been a great conversation. We will put this up on YouTube probably tomorrow. If you have family and friends you do want to share it with, it'll be there. Thank you all.
My mom.
She's not there? Okay.
No,
Thank you.
She's watching a movie. She just put me over here to watch this, so I've been watching the entire thing.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm curious to know what she thinks. Thank you again, and good night.